Some quick introductions. I do have to apologize. I'm going to be bouncing off of this call in a couple minutes because I have a retreat that I'm facilitating with my team here at Vassar. But my name is Luis Jimenez. I'm the Associate Dean of the College for Student Living and Wellness at Vassar College. That means I'm responsible for the residential life side of things, and then all things related to health and well-being here as well. And I am the chair, right? Is that the language? For the Small College and Universities Network for Hawaii this year. Yeah, I'll popcorn over. Did you want to go, Meredith?
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith Dixon. I use she, her pronouns. I am the educational program coordinator with ACU Hawaii. And so my role with that includes serving as the professional staff leader for this network and a few other networks, in addition to doing some of our in-person conferences and things. So you will often see me on these monthly calls. But I am happy to be a resource for this group and love hearing all these conversations. My background is in residence life at small institutions. And so, I'd never say I have a favorite group, but I can relate very well to the conversations that happen among this small college group.
It's okay to admit it. We won't say anything.
Be our secret. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Amy Cotner. I'm the Dean of Students at Keuka College. And so I oversee things outside the classroom. I'm going to pass you off to Laura, who's also from Keuka, so she can introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Laura Dulski, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Campus Life. So I'm overseeing a residence life area as well as campus programming initiatives. John?
So yeah, I guess that makes it my turn. Hi, name's John Michael Hackey, pronouns are he, him. I am the Assistant Director of Training and Education at Goucher College, just north of Baltimore. We're about 1,000 beds, currently occupied, have about 700 to 800 of them filled. And I guess since our director just left, I am technically the Senior Housing Officer for us here at the moment, so.
Well, welcome everyone. I anticipate that Beth Ackman, who is the co-chair with Luis there for the network, will be joining us soon. So we'll certainly have time for folks to introduce themselves as they hop on. I have a couple things to chat about, and some folks submitted some questions as well. So since there's some new faces today, in the past, during this time has really been just an open conversation. People will sometimes submit questions when they register, topics that are on their mind, and we certainly try to address those. We also, well, this month in particular, I would love to get some thoughts about the upcoming small institution symposium that we have this spring, so that we can work on some additions to our time for that symposium. Yeah, so I can open the floor if folks have questions on their mind, and then I can also pull up what was submitted as folks registered.
Yeah, the only thing I'd want to share with the group, and before I log off, which will be in about a minute or so, is wondering if the group, and I guess it's a small group right now, but if we can keep asking this question, there are things kind of in terms of like sharing resources with one another, which has become an important part of these gatherings. Right? We have questions and we kind of talk with one another about what we're doing at our institutions, which is great. I think another component that I was hoping to add this year is a curiosity around whether we want to build our own relational capacity. And that would mean, doing something like reflective circles, over Zoom and talking a little bit more personally about, how we're doing. For instance, reflective circle on how global conflicts or political, climate may be affecting you and your work, right? Might be the kind of question that might be part of a reflection, and that we would talk with one another about how we're doing, how we're feeling. And again, a general curiosity about whether folks want to spend time doing that, or whether or not we just, hey, let's not get too touchy-feely, which is my MO. So I don't know, I'm looking for either like a thumbs up, like, I'm not saying every month we would do that. I'm thinking maybe every other month. A sideways would be like, hey, I need to learn a little bit more, or be like a thumbs down, like, no, let's just stick to business. And I'm okay with any of those responses. So can you give me one of those? Please, need to learn more. Okay. I'm happy to send on.
I like the business.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think every other month I was looking to do that. I think there's particular ways in which, again, there are things that are happening on our campuses that are connected, and I'm not a separate the human from the work kind of person. I'm trying to sort through the space for both of those. But I can certainly pass along or have a little bit more information available the next time we gather to see if that's something we want to do. And now that Elizabeth is here, or Beth, I'm on my way out. But I appreciate the end of this, and we'll get some information out to y'all about those things. Amy, I didn't see a response from you. Were you nodding to this? Oh, you were okay there in that range. I'm happy with that. All right. Thank y'all. I'll see y'all next month.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is it done? I'm sorry, we're dealing with a situation, so.
You are all good. We ran through some intros, and then Luis was suggesting some of what you talked about with the reflective circle. So it sounds like folks are maybe on the fence, and that we're going to come back at the next meeting and talk more about what that could look like and whether that gets introduced in the future. But yeah, Beth, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I'm Beth Ackman. I know two people on here very well. I'm the director of housing at SUNY Morrisville, and my alma mater is Keuka College, and there are two people here from Keuka. So is that a good way to put it? Anyways. Hi, John, Michael, and hi, Robin. Go Green Bay, not really, but we're going to just say it nicely. Okay, moving on. So Robin and I started with small colleges and universities when it was first started with a CUI, and Drew was our head dude. And Robin and I have a deep love for Green Bay Packers. Okay, so anyways, moving on. Did anything you talked about with the symposium that's coming up in April, or just the reflective circle?
We haven't gotten into that. That is a lovely topic to bring up. I think Luis did put in the chat, April 17th will be the symposium. And actually, while we're chatting, I think the website just went live yesterday, so I'll try to find that link.
So the nice thing about the symposium, because some of you guys haven't been part of it before, is it's $100 and your whole college can attend. So like my director of conduct attends, we've had EOP people attend, our Title IX person attends, but it's $100 and anybody can attend. Or if it's just one person's going to attend, then it's $25. So it's very reasonable. Right now we are working on some different topics, and I just want to run them by and see if we're like hitting the head right, and if we're not, then what do we need to change to hit the head right? So we have at the moment not set in stone yet, but we have a keynote speaker that has done some articles about small colleges and universities and work-life balance and things like that nature. That would be our keynote. Then we're looking to do work with an architect friend that Luis knows, talking about how to change those 1950s, 60s common rooms into something that the students nowadays would like. So how to do that on a lower budget that can be done in-house instead of having to like push it out and get contractors and all of that. So there's that conversation. We're looking to do a roundtable of all of the other organizations in CUI, because one of the things that, sorry, I'm moving my screen because I feel like I'm staring up at it. One of the things that we are realizing is with small colleges and universities, sometimes resources are hard to come by, and getting our staff to support or the education or the knowledge or anything like that. Oh, crap. Hold on. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Still doing this student thing.
The nature of residence life, getting called away in the middle of other things. But to give, I don't have any of you attended the small college symposium in the past? Okay, so see some head shaking. So to give a little bit of a broader picture, I did share the link in the chat there. It is a half-day event, fully virtual. As Beth said, it's pretty affordable because you can bring your whole team for one rate. Registration isn't quite open yet, but that link does have the dates and times, and it will have registration when that opens later this month. So, with it being a half day, we really have, 4 or 5 sessions that we bring to folks. And so certainly open to thoughts if there are topics that are top of your mind that you think would be relevant for colleagues at other similar institutions. If there's things come in your mind, I'd love to hear them. And I can share too some things that have been shared in the past if that helps people get ideas flowing, but love to hear if people have suggestions.
Sorry, my HRA is trying to help me. So the resource thing is the different, like, small college, women, Black women, I don't know, there's different ones, Latino, Black women, Shopping Stick, the library, all that stuff. We're thinking about having them come in and do like a roundtable to show how they can support small colleges and universities with no extra cost, because you're already paying for it with being a GUI member. So we're going to do that. Hi, Angela. And then the other thing we were talking about was either mental health assessment, something of that nature for roundtables. So my question is, what are some things that you would like your staff to learn about? We have done everything in the past. We have had mental health, we've had assessment, we've had burnout, we've had different authors be the keynote. It just makes it easier. And then we have done everything from housing software. It's just, what are some areas that you're seeing your staff needing support, so that way we can make it so the symposium is worthwhile.
I think one of the things I would like to see would be like staff being involved in other areas or dipping their like toes in the, into each area on campus, because we're all so small. Being able to do that typically is easier, but I don't know that younger professionals are grasping the value of that. And so I think having some like seasoned professionals in a roundtable with younger professionals may be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo some of that. I mean, especially noticing kind of some of the positions I've been in, us hiring more and more students coming out of their undergrad. So they're not necessarily having not only like kind of the grad school experience, but then also that kind of, in some ways, has kind of placed them out of like the UCU Hawaii internship program or those kind of things. So being able to kind of find a way or find alternatives to kind of make some of those connections, I think would be really helpful.
How many people have staff members who have just come out of the undergrad, either from their institution or others? I know we often try to work with our young staff of, there is that transition, whether you're coming in from within CUCO or somewhere else, and really helping them with those professional boundaries and that setting. So I don't know if others have that problem, but that could be helpful for our young professionals.
We actually highly advise them to go, like, we will help them go somewhere else and come back, because we do hire bachelor degrees, because sometimes drawing that line in the sand, especially like my friends are still here and working here, can be difficult. So
yeah, I've always been I don't like to hire within, but sometimes we don't have the option.
right.
I think one of the things I've noticed over the few years, again, I apologize for being late. I had to take care of something. My name is Robin Gagnon. I'm from Baldwin Wallace University, just outside of Cleveland. We used to have every year a minimum of 4 to 5 of our students that were involved, whether they're an RA or a peer leader or fraternity or sorority life, go into higher education. In the last couple of years, we haven't seen hardly any. And my concerns are, I know we moved away from grad assistants because we couldn't we couldn't find anymore. So is there something that we're not doing to encourage young professionals who have the skills to go into higher education programs? And what are we lacking? What are we not doing? Or is it just in our area that we're struggling to find people going into higher ed?
No, it's everywhere. And I have several colleagues who are at different higher ed programs as faculty members in the state of Pennsylvania, particularly. They're struggling with their numbers too, as all schools are. But what we're finding is I'll have to go to them where I used to be able to pull from their programs and get really great staff. They're finding students don't want to leave their general area. And that, so I don't know if that's impacting to them even going into higher ed necessarily. They're not willing to relocate and move. So I don't know if others are seeing that. I don't know what that secret is that we could, do with our professionals to help motivate our undergrads. I'm not sure.
Right.
To move on to move up is not a thing anymore. Like they want to move, they want to go home, or they want to stay where their alma mater is, and they want to stay there until they retire. And it's like, it's not the residence life world. I've had to have that conversation with some of my staff. Like, I moved all up and down the East Coast, moving on to move up. Like I started in missions, and then I went to Florida for residence life, and then I went to Winston-Salem for residence life. I went all the way out to the Midwest and met crazy people like Robin, and then I came back to New York. So, so Robin, I was bragging about you before you. So that doesn't happen anymore. People expect to be able to stay, do their RD role, and then we don't have a ton of assistant director positions. If even at small colleges, you have an assistant director position, and they expect to be promoted after so many years. And I'm like, I can't promote you. The job doesn't change. So, yeah, but there's not as many people applying for the higher ed degrees anymore either, is what we've been seeing at our local programs. We never have pulled grad assistants. But we did change it where it's bachelor's, master's preferred, so that we could get more people, because another thing is a lot of people don't want to go on for a master's, they just want to go get a job. So, or that's what we're saying. What about a mentorship program, or a mentor, like hooking up like young professionals with seasoned professionals? Maybe, I don't know, because I'm wondering if that would help, because that's one thing I've been asked by my staff, is if there's anybody I can get them in touch with to be a mentor. Like, because I can't mentor them, I'm their supervisor, I'm not their leader, I'm not their, like, there's times that they're annoyed with me. They're not going to come to me and be like, yo, sit down, let's talk, how do I handle you right now? It's not going to work. Like, so they need to have someone else to bounce ideas off with. So I was thinking like we could even look at sending it out to small colleges and say, is anybody interested in doing a mentorship program? Like, one, do we have RDs that are interested in being part of it, or new professionals? And two, do we have some seasonal professionals that would want to be mentors? Because I wouldn't want to make someone be a mentor, because it's like telling someone they have to go get their teeth pulled. Like, you can't make someone do something. But that was something I was thinking, but I don't think it's anything with the symposium. It's just something I might want to put up there. Angela, did you have something? Because your camera's on now and everything. Okay, just want to make sure. Is there any areas that you're seeing that we need to give some support to? RA training, mental health assessment, anything like that, that we want to bring in some people with knowledge to support that message to your staff, or information for you. I'm a sponge, so I love learning everything from other people. So
one of the things I've noticed when we just went through it in training, and that's why it's coming to the forefront for me, is that we've had more of our RAs go through our discipline process, or I should say our corrective action process, than we've had in years. Partly due to the fact that I think one is that there's two reasons. I think one is because of budget cuts, we had to reduce the amount of training. So some of the things that we typically would go over, we weren't able to go over during fall training, which was about a little more information about the job, the responsibilities, showing up for time, why you show up for time, why you show up for duty, why you're doing program. And what we're seeing now is more and more RAs not fulfilling the job description. You know, not showing up on time for duty, not doing their bulletin boards, not following up with students, not doing work orders correctly, or not following through on incident reports. Is that just our group as RAs, or is that a general trend where is there a session that we could talk about how we can get the best out of our RAs to avoid them going through corrective action or something like that? But that's what I've noticed when I talk to our person on our campus that has to deal with students who need to go through corrective action. Because we have 4 or 5 right now that may not be on staff after next week after their individual meetings because of what they did in the fall or lack of what they did in the fall.
This is the first, so we've actually had ours go through conduct, like they're breaking like college policies, not just not doing their job as an RA. That number has increased for us, which was like mind blowing. And it's like stupid stuff that they get through conduct. Like they gave their swipe ID to somebody else. Well, as an RA, you ding ding, you have more access than other students. Why did you give your swipe ID to your boyfriend? Because you were lazy and didn't sign him in as a guest. Okay, so you broke 2 policies. Goodbye. And those are always lovely conversations. And then they have to appeal to me, and I just stare at them and I'm like, so what are we appealing? But with the job, and we had to cut back on because meals cost so much and food costs so much and all of that, we had to cut our training back because we can't bring them in for 3 weeks and go over, like, I call it the hand holding presentations. Like, if you want to succeed at your job, you have to do da 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 da. And they're like those half-an-hour hand holding presentations that we use as filler because we have mandatory presentations we have to do. So what we did is we made the RAs, we use Office. And we use Office. So we have teams. So RAs are on team. And then each building has their own team that only they're on. But in the RA team, we have a folder called training for whatever semester. It has all the presentations, has a schedule. And then the presentations that we were not able to do because of time, we turned them into, you had to complete it by this time and you had to take a test. And then if you didn't take the test, one, it's in the form. So the pro staff checks. If you didn't take the test, then you get documented for not taking the test. But that also helped us know where people fell because some of them didn't do well on the test. So it's like, did you just take the test and not read the information? We covered that during one-on-ones. Another thing we did this year is we did not welcome back people for this semester. So our agreement is only 1 semester at a time. We have a lot to go on an internship because every major has to do an internship at Morrisville because we're at Tech. So we did not welcome people back if they did not do certain things. They knew from all along because they all have an agreement they signed at the beginning of the semester. During their one-on-ones, their pro staff would meet with them. In November, pro staff were telling people like, if you're not meeting the requirements, due to that, there's a chance that you will not be welcome back next semester. And in December 1st, we gave notification of who was welcome back and who wasn't. There were only 2 that came to us saying, why was I welcome back? I don't understand. All the rest of them understood because we had been during their one-on-ones making sure to go over the agreement and say, this is what you need to work on. So the agreement helped us a lot. The agreement has been built a lot more from when I started here. When I started here, it was about a page that said, hi, do this. You'll keep your job. Now we have them initial things and acknowledge things and we put dates in and all of that. So, but now it's not just you, Robin. Maybe it's just you and I, but it's not just you. So I also had to break down how much money they get because they don't physically get it as a paycheck from our school. They don't think they get paid enough to do everything we expect of them. So I had to take their housing, they get their housing and they get a $200 stipend. And we had to take it down and show them like, this is the hourly rate. Divide it into this. This is how many hours worth of we're paying you. You're only working now if you add up the nights you sit the desk, training, opening, anything like that. We still don't, you get paid more than an hourly rate when you divide it that way. So when they saw that, they kind of chilled. And the big shock was the ones we didn't accept back this semester. Now they're struggling to pay their bill. And they're realizing the benefit of what they were receiving. And it's that's the backwards way that they're realizing it. Hi, Stephen. So now I think we could do something with RAs, or even like with training, like the things that we're missing. How are people handling that because of budget and having to crunch time?
As I was listening to several of those topics, I was kind of picking up on this theme of really, for both, it sounds like both of the pro staff side and the student staff side needing to kind of adapt of the position requirements, how things are being enforced, where and how we're recruiting. And so I was just thinking kind of like, is that in and of itself a too broad of a topic, or is that what you're getting at, that kind of everything is changing when it comes to recruiting and retaining staff? And maybe that's the session that kind of covers some of those things. Or maybe within that, it's even split between those issues addressed towards student staff and those same kind of issues addressed towards pro staff.
I like the focus because I think retention and, well, recruitment and retention are two big things. If you recruit good people and you train them well, hopefully you can keep them. But the issue is that even what Elizabeth shared, that, it gets harder and harder because, we used to have like 9 days of training. Now we're down to 6 days of training. So even, I think the RAs are struggling because, one, they don't get the amount of training or the personal attention that they used to have when you had more time for training. Is there better, let's say, ways of doing it that we're not doing it? Is there ways that we could do it better? Are there things that we need to focus on more? How can we retain, like we lost 2 GAs already this last semester, not just, we lost one in our program, I should say in Res Life, we lost another in fraternities and sororities. I think the job, for some reason, it was not what they expected. And they decided that, it wasn't for them. So is there something we're doing up front that we're not, making them aware of what's expected of them? And, even though I think our expectations they've changed, but they've been modified to meet the new generation of students going into higher ed.
Yeah, and I think that for me, it comes back a little bit to kind of some of the professionals now not having necessarily like the grad programs or the internships that we've had previously. I found myself having to do a lot more training around what accountability looks like and their comfortability in holding students accountable for that, both addressing the conflicts, but also what does like recognition and appreciation look like and how you create that balance. And even just looking at like the research that's come out about like kind of what both professionals, but also the students want, I found myself spending a lot more time in our training, like going through like how do you coach and those coaching methods and how do you use some of these tools that kind of are going to help them support RAs as they're kind of having to learn on the job, some of those things that are getting cut out of training. And so what does those coaching skills look like? What does those ability to kind of develop students as these things come into practice, but also what does that level of accountability look like? Again, both the challenges and the positives, and being able to kind of strike that balance and build that trust for them to be able to do that and be comfortable doing that.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things. I met with all the area coordinators. So there's assistant directors who me and the area coordinators, and one of them was leaving because had another opportunity. So what's one thing we can really work on? He goes, showing appreciation. And I was like, okay, can you explain, like, because I thought we were showing appreciation. If a staff member stays up late, I tell them either, no matter how long, I'll give you a half a day comp, or come in late tomorrow, leave early tomorrow, whatever. Like, I want people to sleep. I don't need someone walking around like a zombie. I'm a person that constantly has like my staff's favorite candy in my bottom drawer, and if they look like they're having a shitty day, I throw it at And my staff does not like normal candy. Like I can't go to the grocery store and just buy it. I have to order it, put it online. They like these weird things, and it's great, but it's like, so I thought that was a nice gesture, but no, we just need to be appreciated more. I was like, so explain. They want to be like, you are amazing in the middle of a staff meeting. Okay, fine. I'm not gonna ever do that because I don't want that ever done to me. So yeah, and they want us to have like a that goes around and like you can say nice things about people. And I'm just like, okay. So I'm letting the assistant director take that on because that is not my cup of tea. I'm gonna just keep giving candy and working with people's time. But it was interesting, like people's ideas of appreciation. So
Was that full-time staff or was that professional or
it was a
hourly staff?
professional staff. It was a professional staff member. We don't. I don't know. I'm not a good cheerleader, I guess, like publicly saying like you're amazing, even though I think they're all amazing and I think they do a great job. And I tell them that one-on-one and I check in on them, but I'm not good at like. I don't like doing any staff meetings personally because sometimes you have that staff member that's not doing a good job. And if you're constantly praising, like, say right now, Robin, Stephen, Laura, you're all my staff. And Robin, I'm gonna pick on you. Laura and Stephen, you guys are doing a great job. So every staff meeting, I'm like, hey, Laura, thanks for doing the programming. Hey, Stephen, thanks for doing this. But then I never have anything to be like, hey, Robin, you're awesome. Because you're doing the bare minimum. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like doing that because it looks like I also am starting to create favoritism, which I would never want to do. So I tried to explain that to my staff member that that's one of the reasons why I don't do that is because it's fine that like I had a Robin that just came and does the bare minimum. Not that Robin ever does the bare minimum in real life, but you know, I'm using him as a scenario. But if he came and did the bare minimum, he's doing the bare minimum, he's doing his job. But there's nothing to be like, wow, you're awesome, or thanks for stepping up. You're doing your job. I appreciate you being here doing your job. But how am I going to say anything like that in a staff meeting? Except to say, hey guys, here's some muffins. And thank you all for working so hard and doing a great job. And there's all your coffee drinks that you all like specifically from Dunkin'. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's more of what I do. So I don't know.
Elizabeth, as you're talking, I wonder too if maybe where instead of focusing at the younger generation, or maybe there's two kind of educational sessions, one for them, but also two for us, of how the the generations have changed. It's a generational culture, even with giving feedback. Stephen, you want to jump in on that one?
No, oh, you just hit a nerve with me, Amy. Giving feedback to our current generation of student affairs folks. That's a tough one. That is definitely one that we should definitely add to the agenda. I don't know that they've ever received feedback, and the accountability part too is another good one that I think Elizabeth mentioned. Feedback and accountability are the areas that I've seen are desperately in need for this new entry level kind of under 30 crowd of folks we're seeing in the field right now. So you just hit a nerve, Amy.
It's okay. No, because we were told as someone exited, they wanted our feedback to basically be I can't even think of the term right now, it just went through my mind, but like not confrontational,
Roses and butterflies.
Yeah, like
everybody's a winner.
Yeah. And so how do you do this, and how do you prepare? Like, it's okay, you did really well here, but you can grow here, and this is how. Like, that's not even acceptable to many of the generation. And to me, that's developmental feedback and kind of what I'm used to. So I think something like that could help. I mean, I remember years back, the conversation was having people understand the balance. I think our younger professionals are probably much better than many of us of work-life balance, and I hope that many of us have been able to adapt to some of that, but still that's part of just the generations and how through our careers we've had to adapt.
Thank you for the article, Meredith. Oh, you're plugging your dissertation research. Ooh.
I wrote about generational differences among student affairs employees for my dissertation. So I get jazzed about this topic too.
Well, the other thing is I'm always told I'm an old soul. Even when I was young, I'm an old soul in a young body. And I'd be like, oh, okay. So I'm old now. I'm old and old now. So, oh, good. Yes, I agree, Amy. We have a presenter now. So Meredith just got shoulder tapped. We're good. Moving on. Okay. I'll let Louise know, or you can tell him.
We'll continue that discussion.
Meredith, you totally are going to have to present. I'm sorry. Love you in an HR professionally. And yes, that everybody knows me knows I say that phrase. I'm sorry. There are a couple questions that are on here. Do you want me to go through those really quick? Because it is like 20 of. And if you do have any other ideas besides Meredith presenting at this symposium, please feel free to let Louise know. I CC Louise on all of the emails that I send out to the group, so you have his email address, okay? Or you can let me know, whatever. There are a couple of questions. One of them we kind of talked about a little bit. Thank you, Robin. I don't even think you put it in, but we kind of talked about it. That's kind of cool. So the 3 questions are: what does study abroad look like on your campus? Are RAs permitted to do study abroad, and how do you work? The next question is, let's talk RA hiring process. I'm just joking. Also, what is RA programming looking like on your campus these days? And then the third one was RA selection, so hiring process. So we have talked a little bit about hiring process, but not specifics. So since those two are very similar, let's add those together. So let's talk RA hiring process, RA selection.
We're currently going through it right now. It's similar to we're also trying to hire a assistant director, plug. So if you know anybody, please send them our way. But it's similar to, it's not much different than what's happening with our searches for our full-time folks. We're not finding what we used to, and I hate to, to kind of be that guy and be back in my day, but it used to be where you would have, a big chunk of people would be really greatly qualified for the RA position and would be, the right fit, so to speak, and just perfect. Now we're finding more and more that, the students that are applying just maybe necessarily aren't the students that you would think would be best suited to handle crisis or handle, emergencies. A lot of them have their own crises and emergencies and mental health situations that they're dealing with. So, the thought does cross our mind, is this person going to be able to manage if they're having and struggling with so many of, the challenges that come with being at a university? Are they going to have a challenge also, helping students who are having the same issues? And how, is that fair to us to hire them to be on floors and help students like that? So we're finding it really hard to find qualified folks who would be good in the RA role, the way maybe 5 years ago you would have been able to find folks like that. And then the numbers aren't there. I mean, granted, this is only my first year at this institution. I've been fortunate at other institutions where we'd have for 45 positions or 50 positions, we'd have a couple hundred people applying. Here, we're barely breaking 40 people for 26 RA positions. So, we don't have a very strong candidate pool to begin with. So I'm wondering if that's something that all of you are facing as well in your areas.
Our candidate pool dropped a lot. And then we changed our requirements. So we dropped our requirements a little bit. And then our candidate pool went back up. But it's because we used to be a higher GPA, now we're a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to have no conduct and all of that kind of stuff. We can't pickle with those, but we looked at the other SUNY schools and we asked them what theirs were, and we found out our requirements were like almost 2 points higher than everybody else. So I was like, well, no wonder why we can't get anybody. So we dropped ours. Also, our population being a tech sector, GPAs are normally like 2.5, 3. They're not the liberal arts 3.5, 4. So our HRAs, our head resident census, we bumped them up. So we had to do that. But yeah, we noticed that we were shooting for the moon, and we put ourselves back into perspective, and now we're shooting for normal. And that increased our pool of candidates. We also evaluated how many first gens we have, stuff like that, because a lot of times it come from colleges that were not first gen strong. And this one is very first gen strong, and the parents don't understand the role of an RA and the benefits of it because they never went to college. So it was also, we had to change our marketing to explain like the benefits of the role, but also the expectations of the role. And that made our pool for the first time in a long time really strong because we were marketing to the students that we actually have. But we don't do group process. We don't do group process. We got rid of those two. The group process never showed us anything except who our extroverts and our introverts were. And sometimes the introverts got set up for failure in group process because they wouldn't talk.
Now I'm glad you brought up group process because at all my previous institutions, we kind of went away with group process. We still have it here. And some of the folks here are very tied to it. You know, I think it's kind of like, since they went through group process as RAs, it's hard to let go of that kind of thing. How did you successfully get, kind of phase out your group process?
So when we were decent and didn't do our drop, our group process, all of a sudden, we would do the group process and my staff would say, well, half of them can't move forward. And then I would be in the same group process. I start going to them. They were cutting all the introverts because they weren't talking. So then what I did is I said, okay, we're going to do individual interviews first. Then we're going to do group process, and it's going to be a combined score. It's not just going to be based off, you don't do well in group process, you're cut, because that's how they used to do it here. And I thought that was mind-blowing because you're literally cutting people that might felt like they couldn't talk or were overpowered or whatever. They actually came to me and said, let's cut group process, because they realized that their one-on-one interviews showed more of what the candidate was really going to be like in the role than the group process. So it was giving them the tools, and then they're like, cut it. And I'm like, good. But they were all in the mindset of, well, I had to go through it when I was an RA, so everybody should have to go through it. But they're also realizing that it was a waste of their time too. So it was going back and saying, do you want to value your time? Because interviews, you're still cutting a half an hour for every candidate, quote unquote. And now you're doing group process. And so it also, I went to them and said, this will also help you guys with more time. So they like that. They like taking their time back. But it was letting them see it. I know that's not always the best way to do it, but one thing I've learned is just because I think it should be some way doesn't mean it should be some way, if that makes sense. Like sometimes they have to see it themselves. That's how we got rid of it. And it's been wonderful. And I love it. And we get much more out of their one-on-one questions. So
I am new at CUCA, but I was our hiring manager for our department when I worked at SUNY Geneseo. And we also saw a severe drop in candidates. So a couple of things that I did that were successful is we also dropped the GPA like Beth. We moved it down because we really needed to look at, what were the GPAs of our students? If you're not being realistic, if they're not meeting that requirement at all, then that needs to be dropped. And we had to do that even to keep the current team that we had. Obviously, COVID did a lot of damage during that time. But I think just in general, we also moved our timeline. So we used to start advertising in November, December. Our students really aren't committing as early as they used to. So this year at CUCA, we'll be starting advertisements. They'll be up when the students move back in for the spring semester. And they'll have about a month to apply, but we also know that students aren't going to apply until the last 2 days that it's due. So being really intentional with marketing. So putting links above the fold in any of the emails that you're sending out. getting creative, having the RAs, current RAs or student leaders having touch points with any candidates that they would want to see. I mean, information sessions, I think, used to be like a huge thing too. I think they can be helpful, especially maybe for an introvert. It's a little less pressure. They can just go and listen. So being able to provide, it's more work, but providing different ways for different types of people to get the information. And then really trying to invest in your colleagues that are working with those students that aren't typically the students that are going to apply, right? So for us, we're a PWI, so really our minority students, I really want to encourage them. I want you to see yourself in the team that we have. And I really want to allow others to see you in that position. And so encouraging all students to apply for those positions. But the marketing and being really intentional with that and the timeline, I think significantly helped our process. At CUCA, one of the things that I was really intrigued about on my interview that I took back to Geneseo is that we are hiring all of our peer leader positions as a team because we're so small, rather than fighting each other or making the students choose which position they get. We will hire interfaith facilitators, peer mentors, RAs, and our HEOP peer leaders all through the same process. And I just thought that was great because, I think a lot of times my students were like, well, I want this job. I have to go through now 3 processes and I don't know which one I'm going to get. And then it's also on the back end. I was like, hey, orientation, when are you hiring? Okay, so I want to get those people first. So I got to do my process before they do their process, but I'm also putting the students in a really awkward position. So I'm intrigued to see how it goes this year and I'm excited. But to me, it feels a lot smarter rather than harder.
I like the idea of doing them all together because our Mustang mentors, RAs, all that, it would give you more people to also do the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we also rank them. So the student got to rank which was their priority one. So if they really wanted the peer mentor role which is our orientation leader role, then if they were going to be higher, then that person got it. They got their peer mentor. The only time it became like a negotiation between was when either the student, their number one was not the number one, they didn't meet any of the higher part for peer mentors. And that was maybe their number one, some of those unique things, in that, but we were able to get, I think, a solid group. We didn't have people leave positions because they got offered somewhere else, which happened. I came the spring before and that came on, but also too, our directors work really close together. So, I think that's helpful too.
Some of our directors also said it was helpful because they got to view other people that never would have applied for their positions. And it really opened it up. I can say that when I came on in May, we were hiring our grads kind of late, but we did the same process for the grad hiring. And the grad that I hired to be our GRD, I never ever would have hired him. Just based on his interview. It was 0 experience, no knowledge, horrible. He is the best hire for our office ever. And it's all because we did that as a team. I highly recommend if you're able to, especially for GA positions. It was the best.
We did that model maybe several years ago. I had done that model with our student life folks, and we were hiring for the RAs, the OLs, and the peer mentors all at the same time. And it was all one big candidate pool, and we interviewed all collaboratively the way that you're mentioning. I think the one thing that, it was successful for the most part, but that where we had some challenges were that the bulk of people applying for the positions wanted to be an RA. And if, it made it where it was a little bit difficult because then the director who was managing the OLs and the director who was managing the peer mentors, their candidate pool. I mean, we always had the pick of the cream of the crop or whatever, so to speak. But they didn't have that as well because everybody was applying and a lot of students would select just the RA position. And it would kind of be frustrating for the other two departments that are like looking and going through this whole process collaboratively when maybe only like a couple of them want to be. And then the folks that don't get hired to be an RA are the ones that are then hired to be OLs and peer mentors. They're a little bit jaded when it comes to summer training. And this is at a previous institution. We would do summer training together. They were a little bit jaded when they saw their peers, in the res life position and they weren't. That was the only challenge we had, but I will say it was such an effective and great thing. And I think what helped was that the three of us were very close too. The three directors were very close, so we were able to kind of navigate a lot of these waters together. So I mean, if you could do that at your campus, that is a huge help, and you do get to see people that you don't normally see for other things. There were people that applied to be OLs who put OL first. Sometimes it wasn't a lot, but who would put OL as their first and then RA as their second. And some of those folks we ended up snatching up to be an RA because we would have never seen them normally in our general old process interview for us because they would come in with just the interest in being in an OL. And then when they learn more about the RA position and then when we see them, ends up being a really great match. So it is definitely if it can work on your campus, it is definitely a beneficial way to do your selection process.
We were talking about group process earlier, and I'm not necessarily a huge component of this, but my staff at Geneseo just loved it. So they started doing group process over a 3-week period. It is a huge time commitment, but they loved it because they could see the growth and it allowed the introverts to kind of be more comfortable and come out of their shell during that. So if you have people that are completely opposed to removing group process, that could be another opportunity. It was a challenge scheduling. Luckily, we had a large staff, so we could have like 8 different sessions happening at a time. But over that course of the period, you're only meeting for like an hour, 45 minutes. And so commitment wise on like a Saturday or a night, it's a little bit less like mindset wise, but the growth that you could see and the comfortability was pretty significant.
It's one of the things that actually I've been having conversations with my team about is actually having an optional group process. And so giving people different ways that they want to or they're comfortable representing themselves through our process. And so like here's an opportunity, but again, if it's something where you don't feel or maybe even just not available, it's be an optional tool there, but it's something where again people can kind of choose their representative, their different ways how they can best represent themselves through our process.
Okay, sorry. I swear, I'm not good at multitasking, and I should be at this point in my career. So we're gonna just let that go for a minute, okay, everybody? I think this is awesome, Laura. Don't be shocked if all of us blow you up wanting that student leadership application because you're already on my hot list. John, I'm gonna be emailing you for that presentation. So just FYI, everybody, I will be stealing, not borrowing, stealing things from you. I'm just gonna be honest. Don't want to go to jail, but I'm stealing. So moving on. Programming. So there is what is RA programming looking like on your campus?
Here at Center, we have 2 types of programming: educational programming. We have the RAs. We encourage them to be good campus partners and take students to other educational programs that are already happening so they don't have to be the expert when they're 19 years old and maybe don't fully understand the impact of what they are saying. They just think they do. And then we ask them to do 3 of those a semester, and we give them 3 socials that are truly socials, throw out some crayons and color a little bit and get to know each other a little better. Like nothing has to be in depth or beyond that. And what I found in the fall, because this was a change that I made when I got here in the summer, is that maybe we could go down to 2 educational and 2 social programs and still have the impact that we want to have. So that's probably what it'll move in spring term, which starts in
To the
February for
whole
us.
semester or to a month or?
2 a semester, 2 socials and 2 educational programs per semester.
Just clarity.
Yeah, for us, like our RA positions are advertised as kind of a 10-hour a week commitment. And so one of the things that we've kind of tried to figure out how to balance like intentional interactions, individual engagement versus like programming and kind of community engagement is trying to how to balance that time. And so we, in the past where we're here, they would do RRAs, would that do like 3 or 4 a semester. We pulled that back to about like 2 active, maybe 2 passive. But then also that allowed us to kind of free up some time to emphasize like, here's how you have regular check-ins, here's how you have like intentional conversations with residents to kind of be able to kind of provide some of that balance and some of that emphasis on build the individual relationships while you're also building the community as well, and making sure we're balancing their time appropriately with some of those things.
Intentional conversations is a big thing. So going back to like stuff we need to work with RAs on, RAs didn't want to get to know their residents, and I'm like, then why are you an RA? It was only like 3 of them. None of them were welcome back this semester. But we are really pushing to know like you are in the building, you are on a floor, you have 22 to 27 students. Can you please at least like make sure that you know their name? Maybe what they look like. This is safety and security in the hall. So we have upped our intentional conversations a lot. We started working on residential curriculum or the curriculum model or whatever name it has at this time. And so we do use that to build our programming and stuff to make sure we have like the backing and all that. But we totally took the idea of intentional conversations from that. So that is one thing. And then we do an educational social, they have to do an educational and social program every month. But their educational a lot of times ends up being their bulletin board. And we also assign their bulletin boards to be specific topics. So 1 month is Clery, 1 month is conduct policies, and then 1 month is normally like a welcome back or finals kind of idea, like good luck kind of thing. But that is what we've been doing, so that way the bulletin boards actually get done and have information on them, because we did learn that when we had the bulletin boards and we let them pick the topic, sometimes that meant they were blank. So assigning them like a Clery topic or a conduct thing, at least it gave them more guidance, because creativity is not always the strong suit of all of ours, just like administrative isn't always the strong suit. So we make sure that we try to support them as much as we can. But that's kind of what we've done with our things. We have money. Oh, yes. Like that for the bulletin boards. That's pretty much what our 2 learning outcomes, but we just have them set for them. More so they can pick and not have to like come up with something. I do think we need to work on partnering better, like getting our students to take students to things. That is one thing I put down that we need to maybe add. And our socials are fun. Like they're either, we use Swank. I don't know if anybody else has Swank on campus. So we do a lot of movie nights. Sometimes they can be educational because of Swank, and sometimes they're just like, come watch Barbie. And I always know what movies people are playing because I always know from what's ordered. Like I knew when Barbie was getting played in every residence hall. And then our students love laundry bingo because they get like laundry stuff or food bingo. So if you ever get bored, do those programs because you can get like all of the new students out for those bad boys. And then we also do an ice cream sundae. It's called Sundays Delivered. So we have ice cream sundaes on a cart and push them around. They can make their own sundae at their room and have Sundays on Sunday. So we do stupid stuff like that in our sip and chats as Capri Suns and painting. So we do stuff like that. Nothing crazy, nothing extra, but it gets them out and gets them saying hi. And then it looks like there was a roundtable thing in there that just put in, and then there's also the study abroad, and RAs permitted to do study abroad. And how does that work? We've had 2 go out on study abroad, and we just count them as out that semester, and they have to reapply when they come back. So we keep them in the loop, like when we do applications, and we've done team interviews for those ones. But every RA has to apply anyways. And for the start of a new year, so most of the time they go on study abroad at our school 2nd semester. And so we just make sure to send them an email saying, hey, friendly reminder, you did a great job last year. You come back from study abroad and we'll be here in the fall. Would you like to be an RA again? If so, please apply. And then we set it up electronically with them and make sure that we can still do their interview and time change and all that. But we don't hinder them. It's the same as we have some that go on internship, like the wrong semester, and come back and do classes their last semester. We treat them the same way. I don't know
Yeah,
how that says it.
Yeah, at Goucher, literally all of our students are required to have a study abroad. So that's something that's built into our system in terms of, it's like, it's like a semester away, how to reapply or kind of express interest in coming back, or even like students who maybe study abroad that semester and want to apply to be a new RA. It's kind of building it in, like how do we accommodate like virtual kind of interviews and those kind of things within that process as well. But yeah, something we have to navigate regularly just because it's part of the general student curriculum.
London time zone is awesome. Doing interviews at like crazy hours to get with them. But that is honestly the hardest part when they do study abroad, is making sure we can get in front of them and do their interview and figuring out the time zone difference so that they're not up late or up at the crack of dawn and already up late. It's that middle ground, and when they're like 12 hours difference, it can be fun. So but we don't hinder them, because going study abroad is kind of a cool thing too. So why would we want to? Just like when they do their internships. Thank you, Meredith. 2nd Tuesday of every month, and hopefully I will not be losing my little brain over the time frame.
So that
we might be changing. It is something that's being reviewed, because we want to get more people from the West Coast and other time zones. And noon is great for East Coast and Central, but it's not always good for Mountain West. And we want to broaden our group, or maybe even, and Meredith, we didn't talk to you about this, so you can see me later. Maybe doing 2, so there's 2 different time zones, 2 different times, so that like maybe like a later one, like, and then keeping this one and adding a later one or something. Just so that everybody can join if they're able to. And they are recorded and they are on the YouTube page. So if you miss one, you can put that in there. Also, if you ask questions and you're not here, we will send you the answer. A lot of times I take notes and send the email out saying, this is the question you asked, here's your answer. But everybody is here that asked questions, so I didn't have to send anything out. Woohoo, go me. No, I'm just joking. It is 1:06, so we're over the time. So have a wonderful, amazing day. And we'll talk to you all later.
Thank you everyone for your input about symposium topics. Keep your eye out on the website. We'll have updates soon.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.